Hello and welcome back to the FPL Tom YouTube channel. In today's video we are going to be doing a tier list of every single midfielder in FPL. Well, I say every single one, we're only going down to about 6.5 as there are so many options this year and it's kind of hard to pick out which ones are the best ones for your game week 1 draft, but hopefully by the end of this video you do have an idea of the better ones to be targeting and the ones that you need to avoid for this upcoming season. If you enjoy the content that you see on the channel, please be sure to like, comment and subscribe as I do answer every single question down in the comment section, and we're trying to hit 1,500 subs by the end of this month. We're about 300 away. If we could do it, it would be absolutely immense and I would be forever grateful. But ladies and gentlemen, that is enough waffle from me. Let's dive in to today's video. Right, so here we are, ladies and gentlemen. Here is our tier list. As you can see, we do have 5 categories that I'm going to rank all the midfield assets in: essential, great pick, differential, mid, and avoid. These are the 5 categories that every player in this list is going to fit into. I haven't gone for all the midfielders. We've gone from the top, which is Mo Salah in terms of value, all the way down to the 6.5s. Yes, there are some good ones in the 6 and the 5.5 kind of range. You've obviously got the likes of Morgan Gibbs-White. You've also got Enciso, at 5.5 million. But for me, this video will take absolutely forever. I haven't got the time. You probably don't want to watch a video as well where some random guys talking about players who are going to get points for like 2 hours, do you? So we're going to make it all these kind of 32 players in this list. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's just dive straight into it. Starting off, our first player is Anthony. Now for me, he is a fat and easy avoid. Picked up an injury at the end of last season. Easy player that you don't want to have in your game week 1 draft. Manchester United's opening fixture is good at Wolves, but for me, he's not going to be playing if he is injured. And I think with the other options as well, Rashford and Bruno Fernandez, he doesn't get anywhere close to these guys, so easy avoid for me. Next on the list is Luis Diaz. I'm going with differential for this one. I actually really like Luis Diaz as a potential pick. I think he's going to be starting in the Liverpool kind of lead-in lineup for the first few Premier League games. Started on the left-hand side. Obviously, there is a lot of competition for places in that Liverpool team. You obviously have Nunes, Gakpo, Diaz. Obviously, Firmino's left now, but you know there's opportunities there, you know, at least for Luis Diaz. Gone with this differential pick as well because I do think if you have him in your game week 1 draft, there aren't going to be too many other players that do have him. So you know he could get you a nice little rank boost. Liverpool's fixtures as well aren't too bad after Chelsea in game week 1 for their opening fixture. So like him as a differential pick. Next on the list is Beachy Eze, however you want to pronounce it. I'm going differential for this man. Sheffield United away in game week 1, absolutely brilliant. After that is not as good up until around game week 4, where then Crystal Palace's fixtures do pick up again. I think the smart move is to have Brighton players for the first 3 game weeks, then look to move to Eze in terms of your midfielders. But if you do go with him from game week 1 and target that Sheffield United fixture, no player picked up more points since Roy Hodgson came to the club than Eze. He was in the top 5 performing players as well over that time period. Absolutely smashed it for Roy and smashed it for Crystal Palace. Kind of stepped up to the mark. I think he showed, you know, why they don't need Wilfred Zaha as well. Eze kind of became that key figure, that go-to man who's going to get you a goal. Obviously as well, they do have Michael Elise out injured, so whether or not that's going to limit Crystal Palace's output, I don't know. But as a differential pick, if you are going to go for Eze, I do not mind that on your game week 1 draft. The next player, he's going to make it in the essential category, and it is Bruno Fernandez. For me, this is a man that you need to have in your game week 1 drafts. 8.5 million for a player of his quality is absolutely unreal, ladies and gentlemen. Fits this talisman theory, which I've banged on about for seasons on end as well. 8.5 million on penalties, good fixtures, really good data as well. Massively underperformed on his XG and XA last season, but still put up quite good numbers. Not to the level we're used to seeing from Bruno Fernandez, but still the data's there. You know, it's another season under Eric Ten Hag as well. How is that team going to have evolved? Is this man going to be, you know, the player that we kind of saw 2-3 seasons ago in FPL? definitely for me at this price point has to be going in your team. The next player we're going to talk about is Philip Foden. I think he's a great pick. Currently kind of trying to work him into a draft in my kind of updated one, because I really want as many Manchester City players for their opening kind of 6 to 7 game weeks, because the fixture run is so nice, ladies and gentlemen. Foden obviously didn't feature too much in terms of the second half, and he's one of those players where we've all owned him at the right times and the wrong times. I've been in both camps. You know, he's a little bit like going back to your ex-girlfriend is the analogy I'm going to use. You know, it feels good at times. You're like, yeah, this is it, man, this is it. And then other times you're like, no, what have I done? I've made a grave mistake. That's how it feels owning Phil Foden. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's absolutely dreadful. But for your game week 1, I think he's going to be a great pick. I think he's going to be in the starting lineup for the first couple of game weeks at least. And then by that point, we can evaluate where every other midfielder is. Sticking with the Manchester City theme, our next player is Jack Grealish. Now, I'm going for a great pick as well for Grealish. Very similar to Foden. You know, the fixtures are absolutely immense. We want to be having as many Manchester City players. They are the best attacking team. Obviously, there's Pep Roulette. It doesn't kind of kick in at the start of the season. It's a little bit later on as European football, FA Cup, Carabao Cup, all these other trophies kick off. That's when Pep starts to lose his head and becomes, you know, wanted by every single FPL manager. But up until this point, you know, the start of the season, I think it's a great time to own Manchester City assets. Grealish as well. Good season in terms of the eye test, but in terms of data, not like amazing. Didn't put up like world beater numbers, but is a brilliant asset to own. And obviously had a really good partnership with Erling Haaland as well. That was magical at times to watch them two play together. And obviously if they can kick off both of them kind of as Haaland did at the start of last season, if Grealish can pick up on his kind of form towards the end of the season, absolutely flying on Manchester City. So I think he is a great pick to have in your team. The next player is Pascal Gross. Now for me, he is probably the worst Brighton midfielder you potentially could go for out of the list included today. Potentially could be on penalties. I've seen a lot of people saying on that on Twitter, but never taken a penalty for Brighton. So yeah, I think there's not really too much in that. I think maybe they might let Evan Ferguson take a step up. I've also been saying I think Estupinian is potentially going to be on penalties as well. Takes him on international duty. So that kind of takes away any purpose of owning Pascal Gross. He's a very consistent performer. Plays week in, week out in that side. But Brighton obviously have signed a lot of players this summer. How is he going to fit into this side? Where's his role going to be in this system? Is he going to be potentially be a little bit deeper or a little bit further forward? You know, it's kind of a wait and see with him to kind of see whether or not he's going to be able to fill in Mac 10's shoes, or is he going to be playing a completely different role? So for me, just not worth it. Yeah, the fixtures are good, but I'm going to put him in the mid category. The next player we're going to talk about is Kai Havertz, another one who honks. Ladies and gentlemen, honks of mid. We don't know what role he's going to be playing in this new Arsenal side. 7.5 million as well. I'd rather have a City asset that I know is settled in that side. I know what they're going to be doing. I know City as well are a constant attacking threat. So for me, Havertz, easily putting him into the mid section. If you do have him in your teams, I would suggest potentially looking at other options. We don't know what role he's going to be playing. He might just be back up to Jesus and they rotate around. Could be playing in that 10 role. There is a lot of debate about what's going to happen with Kai Havertz and his position. So I just don't think it's worth it for game week 1 to have him in your draft. Another player who's going to move into the mid categories. Wow, we are looking at a lot of mid players here, ladies and gentlemen. It is Diego Jota. Now, again, another one. We don't know what role he's going to be playing. Yes, when we do know and he's playing and he's fully firing, he is an amazing asset to own. But for our game week 1 drafts, I just don't feel it is worth owning Diego Jota. The fixtures are good for Liverpool. I could see why you potentially want to go for him, but I would prefer going for someone like Diaz or Salah, or even Gakpo. Nunes kind of fits in this mid category as well. We don't really know what their role is going to be. Lots of options up front. So yeah, easy mid for that one. Next player is KDB. He's going in the avoid category. Picked up an injury in the Champions League final. Too expensive as well when you've got players like Foden and Grealish. Yes, City's fixtures are good, but for me, easy avoid for KDB. Next player is Kulusevski. Again, another one fitting into this mid category. I just don't fancy him as an asset at the moment. We kind of need to see how he performs and how he functions under this new role and under a new manager. So yeah, it's going to be a difficult one. Last season as well, didn't really light the world on fire, didn't pull up too many trees like he did the season before when he was on loan, and was absolutely fantastic for Spurs. One of the best assets to own at times, but last season just wasn't quite there. 7 million as well. I'd rather have a Foden, Grealish, Eze, Bruno Fernandez, a Saka, all these players miles above Kulusevski. Next player we're going to talk about is James Madison, a player who has recently moved to Tottenham Hotspur, and I do prefer him over Kulusevski. Yes, I've spoke about at length now players moving to new clubs and under new systems, but Madison is one of those players that we've known over the years has been absolutely exceptional in FPL. Whenever Leicester have a good run or this man is firing, we've always wanted him in our teams. Free kick mastermind as well. Picks up on corners as well. Absolutely brilliant asset to own in FPL. Spurs opening 2 fixtures are a little bit tricky. Brentford away, never as easy as people think. Then take on Manchester United, but after that it is really saucy. So I could see why potentially maybe holding off on Spurs assets up until around game week 3. That might be a better time to pick up on them. But yeah, for me, that just makes more sense to go for Madison over Kulusevski. I think if you have Madison in your team, like I said, great pick, but not essential by any means. Moving on to our next player, an easy avoid is Mahrez. Don't know what role he's going to be playing. Don't know if he's even going to be at the club come the start of the season. Obviously, talks of him potentially moving to Saudi as well. So I think he's just one of them. He's one of them players, isn't he, where you pick him up for like 1 or 2 game weeks, shift him on. When he's in form, he's firing, you bring him in. When he's not, you move him straight back out. He's one of those players. He's not one that you want on your game week 1 draft. So enough said on that one. Next player we're going to talk about is Solly March. I'm going differential for Solly March because I feel like a lot of people don't have him in the team. Was absolutely fantastic last year. One of Brighton's standout performers. Whether or not he can live up to that hype this year, there are a lot of questions. Brighton obviously signed a lot more players. Then they've got all like their under 18s that are randomly just appearing from Ecuador as well. There are so many players in that Brighton side. It's going to be difficult to pick which ones to go for. I think Solly March and Mitoma are the best 2. Mitoma we're going to come on to talk about in a little bit. But for me, March, a differential. Not a lot of people have him in this side. So if you do pick him as your Brighton midfielder and he pops off, he could do excellently well for you in terms of your rank. But if he doesn't and Mitoma pops off, well, it could be a long road back up the ranks for you. Let's just say that. But I think he potentially could be worth a punt if you've got a feeling that Solly March is your man. Moving on to our next player, and it is Martinelli. Now, for me, he is a great pick, coming in at 8 million. Yes, there is a lot of competition, as we spoke about with Kai Havertz, but this guy, I think, will be starting the season, or at least starting the opening couple of fixtures, which Arsenal, by the way, have absolutely amazing fixtures to start the season. So definitely a club that you should be looking to target. Martinelli is one of them as well, where we could bring him in for the first few game weeks where he is playing consistently before European football kicks in, and then by that point, we should have a better understanding of the landscape within the game, whether or not we want to switch to maybe Jesus as an option or another forwarding option as well. The Chelsea assets at that point, their fixtures will start to tick over as well, start to become good, so we might want to look at some of them as well. But for a game week 1 draft, I think Martinelli is a great pick to have in your team. Moving on to another great pick, and it is Mbeumo. Obviously, a lot of talk about him. He's probably going to be one of the most popular assets under the 7 million mark in FPL at the start of this game. That's purely down to Tony's suspension, him being on penalties. We're not quite sure what role he's going to be playing. When Tony was suspended at the end of last season and during his injuries, it was Visser who played up top and Mbeumo on the left or the right, kind of switching in and out. Did play a little bit up top, but not kind of fully. He's one of them kind of wingery forwards. Brentford as well are a team in game week 1. They're probably going to be sat on the back foot. So Mbeumo maybe on the counter attack, but I think game week 1 he's probably going to be sat on your bench. But after that, the fixtures are great. I think he will be an excellent pick for you and your sides as well to have in game week 1. Moving on to the next player, it is Miguel Almoran. This man is an easy avoid. Newcastle's fixtures are absolutely dreadful. This man absolutely disappeared after Christmas as well. You know, there was obviously this big debate between him and Grealish, which one was better. And well, Miguel Almoran absolutely fell off a cliff. Yeah, still missing. No one's seen him. We don't know where he is. So, yeah, he's just an easy avoid, isn't he? We're not going to waste too much time on him. Moving on to our next player, and it is Mitoma. Like I came to talk about with Solly March, Brighton's opening 3 fixtures are really good, and I do prefer Mitoma over March. Some of the things he does with the ball are very, very sexual, very intense, you know. Very much a player who passes the eye test, gets you a little bit randy as well, but then sometimes absolutely disappoints. You know, he's one of these guys who's all mouth, and then when it comes to the final product, absolutely nothing there. A one-pump chump, some might describe, because the finishing's just, it's not there, is it? The finishing, not there for Mitoma. Obviously 9 goals, 8 assists for him last season, but it could have been so much more. It's frustrating, but hopefully he has improved on his finishing, because his dribbling and all his other aspects of his game are absolutely fantastic. So I do think he's a great pick for the opening 3 fixtures for Brighton. I think he's going to play every single one and could be the key danger man for their side. The next player we're going to talk about is Mason Mount. He's going straight in the mid category. I don't think there's really too much to say on this one. Obviously moved clubs. Manchester United as well. What role is he going to be playing? He's going to play a little bit deeper. Is he going to be playing in the 10 role? There are question marks around that. There's question marks about his kind of performance levels. Absolutely didn't do anything last year, did he? Didn't really play. Was injured for most of it. Then kind of fell out with everyone at Chelsea. Moved to Manchester United. How's this move going to go? I think he's one of them where it's a wait and see. Definitely not worth putting in your game week 1 draft. Moving on to another player, I'm going to put him in the mid category, and it is Mudryk. I was contemplating putting him in the avoid. The Chernobyl Traore, yeah, this man, how did he cost what he cost? Because, geez, he is poor. He is bad at football. This is probably going to come back to haunt me, isn't he? But, you know, he's bad at football. There's so many better options around that price point as well. Chelsea have Liverpool in game week 1. Fixtures do pick up after that. But for me, Mudryk, easy in the mid. Could easily go in the avoid category as well for me, because, yeah, I don't think I'm going to be owning him unless some, like, magical miracle happens overnight. Let's move on to our next player, and it is Martin Odegaard. For me, great pick. A little bit pricey at 8.5. If he was at 8, probably working himself up to the old essential category. But Arsenal captain, there are question marks about what role he's going to be playing, but I think it's probably going to be one similar to last season, where he absolutely smashed the tits off of last season, didn't he? And could easily do it again, especially over those opening few fixtures where Arsenal have absolutely tasty little fixtures for them. So great pick. If you do have Martin Odegaard or Martinelli or Saka in your team, you're on the right track to a good start for the season. Next player, another player I'm going to put in the great pick category, and it is Marcus Rashford. He's not going in the essential, just down to the fact that he doesn't take penalties and is a little bit purple patchy. When he is in good form, he's absolutely killing it. When he's not, absolutely goes missing, doesn't he? 9 million for him as well is a little bit more pricey. I think if you are going to go for a Manchester United asset, I would prefer Bruno. Save that extra 0.5 million. But I still think if you do have Marcus Rashford in your team, great pick. Can't complain about having him in. Not going to kind of tell you off for having him in or tell you to pick any other players. The only one I would suggest is going Bruno over Rashford, but, you know, each their own, isn't it? You know, one could absolutely smash it come the start of the season, one could be miserable, but I just think with the penalties and Bruno's kind of minutes and overall play, I do prefer him as a pick over Marcus Rashford. The next player is good old Richie.
Richie, lad! Stay Richie, lad!
Richie!
Good, Ricky, lad!
Now he's going in the avoid category because he is dreadful. 1 goal for him last season as well. Not sure how he's going to feature in the new manager's plans, whether or not he's going to be the backup forward, whether or not he's going to play out wide. Not worth it. Let's wait and see on that one. Maybe he'll work his way up to a differential and a great pick eventually, but at this moment in time, he is a fat, solid avoid. Moving on to our next player, and it is going to be Saka. Now, I'm whacking Saka in essential. 8.5 million for a man who absolutely killed it. Killed it last season, didn't he? Dropped off a little bit towards the end, but with the penalties, with Arsenal's good fixtures, and this man's ability, oh my days. Watching him in the Euro qualifiers, watching him in the friendlies as well, he absolutely just killed it. And I'm loving the word absolutely recently. Probably should change up my vocab a little bit, but he's killing it. Excellent pick. Gotta be having him. He is the top Arsenal asset I would be targeting. Then probably Martinelli, then Odegaard in that order. But for me, Bruno and Saka have to be essential mainstays for your Game Week 1 draft. Let's move on to our next player, and it is Mohamed Salah. I'm actually going to put him down in differential. Now, the reason I've done that, I think he is an excellent pick. You know, we've known what this man can do for years on years on years on end. The guy absolutely kills football, kills FPL. But this year, FPL have changed it up. They've moved the prices around, made other options so much more cheaper. And you can get so much more talent for less money than paying for a Salah. So I still think he's a good pick though, but like the reason I put him in differential is the fact that I feel like a lot of people aren't going to have this man in your team, and if you do go with him, you are going to be in that differential camp, especially for Game Week 2 as well, where he does take on Bournemouth. If nobody's got him and you captain him and he absolutely goes off, that could be massive in terms of your rank this season. So he's going in the differential category, still a fantastic pick, but if we're looking at it in terms of plans and kind of working out what we want to do, you can build such a better squad without him in than within the squad. So that makes more sense for me to do, to get more talent spread across rather than hoping and praying on one player who didn't have an amazing season. But if he hits the ground running, starts banging hat-tricks, everyone is going to have to massively kind of figure out the team, what they're going to do with it, how they're going to get Salah. Whereas if you go Salah and he does do well, if you've got a feeling, if you've got an inclination that this man is going to slap, then it makes sense to have him in your team, and he will be a differential, ladies and gentlemen. Let me tell you that for free. Moving on to our next player, it is Bernardo Silva, mid. Yeah, let's whack him in mid. Yeah, he's one of them, isn't he? You're never going to really own him in FPL. 6.5 million. If you need someone from Manchester City, maybe you want a midfielder, you can't quite afford Foden or Grealish. I personally, yeah, you know what, we're going to whack him in the avoid. He's not making it in the mid category. He's going in the avoid. Do not buy Bernardo Silva. He has flashes in the pans where he's excellent on FPL. He's a brilliant footballer, but flashes in the pans on FPL where he picks up points, gets super high ownership, and then does absolutely nothing. Avoid him. Do not have him in your Game Week 1 draft. Simple advice. Another avoid is Jadon Sancho. Looks like Manchester United are potentially willing to listen to offers for Sancho as well, around the 45 million mark. Hasn't really kicked on, hasn't really done anything in the Premier League, so an easy avoid. No point wasting any time on this one. The next player is Son, and we're going to whack him in the differential. Nearly picked great pick, but I'm going to go differential. Again, another player where I've not seen him in too many drafts, but was a Golden Boot winner 2 seasons ago with Mohamed Salah. And if he can get himself back to those levels, oh boy, what a player we will have on our hands. Obviously, Spurs opening 2 fixtures as well on amazing. I would prefer maybe going Madison at the start, saving that 1.5 million over Son, but if we see how well Spurs are doing, then I think we might be making the transition to Son, because he is a brilliant natural finisher. But in terms of underlying data, is one of those players who just absolutely rips apart data, XG, all these models, because he is such a fantastic finisher. If you do go for him, I think you'll be in a very kind of differential camp, very similar to Salah. There won't be too many people that have him for the first few game weeks, but I do like him as a Game Week 1 draft pick. Next player we're going to talk about is Raheem Sterling. I'm going to put him in the differential as well. I don't think he goes in the mid. Yes, last season wasn't great for him, but, you know, he has done it in the past. He is a brilliant player, and at 7 million, that is extremely cheap for a player who could be playing in a system that absolutely rocks up the league. Pochettino, obviously experienced with Spurs, PSG as well, building sides that play attacking brands of football. He'll want to play Sterling as well because, you know, he's a fantastic Premier League winner who knows how to do it. I think Sterling gets a lot of slack, but has scored a lot of goals at international level, at club level as well, has done it all, been there, seen that, got the medals. He is a player who potentially could pop, and after game week 1, Chelsea's fixtures are really good. So again, it's one of them, if you have that feeling, if you have that inclination that Sterling could be good, I do like him as a potential differential pick. The next player we're going to talk about is Liverpool's new signing. Now, I haven't learned how to pronounce it because I'm not bringing him in my team at the start of the season. 9 goals, 8 assists for him in the Bundesliga last year. Putting him in the mid category because, again, he's one of these. Is he going to start? Is he going to play from the off? Potentially. What role is he going to play with Mac 10 being there? Is he going to be a little bit deeper? Is he going to be further forward? How will he function with the other Liverpool players? So your Salahs, your Diaz. How will he kind of operate? It's one of them where I think it's a wait and see for him, and then we'll kind of make our choices up. But for game week 1, I would be avoiding him. Kind of, if you want to go for him, great. But yeah, he's probably more in the avoid than the mid. But we'll be generous. He's new. We'll give him the mid for now. Next player is Jared Bowen. We're going to go mid for him. Good fixture in game week 1, Bournemouth, but then, yeah, I don't know with West Ham. And it looks like Bowen's been taking off penalties as well, which removes his talismanic kind of abilities for me. That's what I look for. Players who score goals, get assists and penalties because they're so key in FPL. Looks like he's lost that aspect of his game, but I do like him as a pick over the season maybe when West Ham's fixtures pick up. But for game week 1, yeah, mid. If you want to go for him for that opening fixture against Bournemouth, great, but yeah, more mid than anything else. And my final player is Leandro Trossard. He's going straight in the avoid category for me. There is no reason to own Trossard at all with the likes of Martinelli, Odegaard and Saka, Jesus as well. All these fantastic players above him in terms of the pecking order. Unless there is a massive injury crisis at Arsenal, there is no reason to own Trossard at all. That was our tier list of all the midfielders, ranking them from essential all the way down to avoid. Let me know what you think of it down in the comment section below, and if you have any questions, also leave that down in the comments section. And I said at the start of the video, we are trying to hit 1,500 subs before the start of the season. Would be absolutely immense if we could do that. But thank you very much for watching, ladies and gentlemen, and enjoy the rest of your day.